So thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful.
We're really excited because we've been, like I said, we've been following you.
Cool.
I always
think
think
that's
that's
work.
Thanks.
That
In
term
real
is
life.
always like, almost feels a bit threatening. I always think we've been following you.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Do you
they
know
could
what
have
I
used a
mean?
better word when they
Yeah.
conceptualise all these platforms,
Loving
but
you.
it works. Yeah, I've been loving it.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I like that. It's better.
Thanks.
So yeah, we had a few questions, but
Sure.
we're hoping that we're just going to have a chat. Really, that's
Yeah.
the aim of
Sorry.
today.
Absolutely.
Right there.
Getting the sense.
I
I
just
just
know
where my phone had gone, but
Oh,
I don't need
I
it.
popped it
Yeah,
here.
that's fine. I don't need it.
Cool. So we are setting up Sister Society, which is basically like a feminist platform. So we love the word feminist, but we've it's been quite interesting as we've been playing around with ideas and approaching people, because some people have had quite negative reactions. So we just wanted to start off by asking if you would describe yourself as a feminist and what feminism means to you, really.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I 10,000% would describe myself as a feminist. I can't see myself thinking of myself in any other way now, really. But I can imagine that a lot of people have a bit of difficulty with the term feminist. I think sometimes because quite mainstream feminism doesn't include everyone. So it means that a lot of people who are out there will see feminism, but they only see Taylor Swift's feminism. And, you know, and then they go, well, that's not relatable in any way. That's not, you know, and these people are actively kind of downtrodden my voices. So why would I, you know, put that label to myself when it doesn't even include people like me? So I think as white women especially, like, it's very easy for us to say, yeah, we're feminists, but there are black women, there are trans women, there are, you know, more women of colour who are like, well, in what way is that relatable to me?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be so happy to put themselves that label. That's why with my feminism, I, as much as I possibly can, try and be as intersectional as possible. But, you know, I think it's always a learning process with feminism as well. I think it's very easy to be like, yeah, I'm a feminist now. But constructively being a feminist means choosing to keep on learning about the world we're situated in. And it means also unlearning a lot of really poisonous stuff that I think a lot of us don't think about twice, you know.
It's really interesting that.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Exactly.
Of what those kinds of
So for example, I'd say that, you know, by being in a society, we inevitably kind of internalize all the like obias, and isms. So, you know, by default, a lot of people will be racist, will be transphobic, queerphobic, fatphobic as well. You know, there are so many, and ableist as well, you know, and there are lots of, because it's such a societal norm to be these kinds of things, not even in their very aggressive senses, you know, it's also microaggressions that we can sometimes emit onto others that we don't realise we're doing.
I think that's far more pervasive as well.
Absolutely.
Because I think people are starting to, not all people, but a lot of people are starting to kind of question their behaviours a bit more.
For sure.
It's those underlying things that they don't even see.
Exactly. And if anything, that makes it more harmful because it is so pervasive. So I'd say a key part of being a feminist is by making sure you're questioning everything, by being like, okay, why do I think like this? Why am I making this assumption? Why am I, you know, why am I just taking this headline as verbatim? Like, why? We've got to keep questioning what we're learning, and we've got to keep questioning the kind of stuff we're internalising as well, constantly. And I mean, unlearning stuff is such a lengthy process, though. I don't think we ever stop doing it. And I think the moment we stop doing it, we're failing ourselves. We've got to keep learning, just for, you know, just so that we can try as much as we can to help other people, and also trying to get I mean, ultimately, if you're a person of privilege, you're never going to fully understand what someone's going through. However, if we can try and understand that by just taking a minute just to listen as well, and just sometimes realising that our voices aren't required, that we've got to just listen and be like, right, what can I do to help you, rather than, oh, I'm going to say my thing about this thing. It's like, got to sit down
It's like
sometimes.
less broadcasting.
Absolutely. Like, which is why I think, because sometimes with like, I don't know, like social media activism and stuff, I think people are very prone to being like, I'm going to add my comment to this. And it's like, no, this person of colour has actually said it very eloquently and understands it way better than you could. So just simply retweet, broadcast their work, and be an ally in that way, or as much as you can, you know.
I think it's interesting what you're saying as well about the intersectionality, because for me, feminism, I always think about like the suffragette, like from that moment onwards, and I think when you think about that, it's so white, it's so middle class, it's
absolutely.
so that's the vision of what it was then. So
Yeah.
it must be and you know, I'm obviously like a white middle class woman, so well, not obviously, but I am.
Yeah.
So I can kind of relate to that quite easily, but it must be that's such a big barrier to overcome for modern.
Well, absolutely. Like, because, I mean, we celebrated 100 years of the vote, like, a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah.
But it was only, that's the anniversary of middle-class women who owned
absolutely.
a home. Yeah, and, like, even I don't own a home, so I wouldn't have been able to
Yeah.
vote back then. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of us
Having
wouldn't.
to say to people, like, oops, some people's vote.
Yeah,
Like,
some people could vote.
people couldn't vote.
Yeah, exactly. I think the actual anniversary of everyone, including working class women and more
Yeah.
women of colour, I don't think that was allowed until maybe 10 years later
Yeah,
or something.
it's really...
Yeah,
It's
which...
kind of worth highlighting that
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
a bit
it's
more, because no one's really, not many people are talking about
No,
it.
well, this is the thing, exactly. But that goes to show how whitewashed the kind of mainstream feminism message is right now, because they're not thinking to take into account all the other people that aren't included in that umbrella. So, no, it's true.
Yeah. Well, we've got to keep having these conversations.
Yeah, we do.
Well, this is it. This is
Yeah.
it. It all starts with like having these conversations and listening to conversations too. Like that's where it all starts. Otherwise, how do we learn? You know?
Yeah, totally, completely agree. Yeah, we were also just wondering if you could just tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started in the body positivity movement.
Yeah,
and
sure.
your kind of journey through that.
Sure. So, gosh, okay, where do I start? So, to me, I never pictured myself being a model in any way. You know, I grew up with really incredibly bad, like, body image issues that was kind of passed on from, you know, like, little quippy comments from, like, your family or your friends to, yeah, right, relatable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have gone through that, to, you know, I was unfortunately in, like, a relationship with someone who didn't want to be seen with me until I was a size 6 and, like, kept me a secret and all this kind of stuff, which obviously informed...
Sounds like a dream.
Oh, he was joyous. He was wonderful. Not only that, but he was a master manipulator. So I kept blaming myself. Yeah, right? The worst. And he kept blaming me for not fitting into his narrow standard of beauty, but obviously I internalised that on myself and was like, oh God, how disgusting am I? I didn't, you know, I stopped eating, like, properly. You know, I had a really tough time, basically. And so when I got to university and I started learning about, like, feminism and body image and actually through, like, Tumblr as well, I was starting to see, like, not just one type of body. And especially I went to the University of Brighton and I had this amazing lecturer, and one of her main specialties was about, like, fat phobia and how fatness is presented in the media and stuff. And it was from listening to her that I was like, oh my God, there's so much that I had internalised that I didn't realise that I had. And I also, because I saw it as such a default as well, I never met a woman who was confident in their body, or even just accepted it. Not just so much like, hi, I'm beautiful, but just like this. Yeah, just being, like, body neutral. Like, it was just always, your body was always a site that you had to, like, break down, and it was, it was really difficult. But then when I got to uni, I started, as I said, like, learning all these new things, and I was like, okay, this is really cool, and maybe I don't have to look a certain way in order to be beautiful. And I kept, you know, I mean, I wasn't, like, I didn't go from 0 to 100 real quick, you know, it's still, like, a super learning, it's a big learning curve.
And I imagine it's subconscious to begin with. And
absolutely. So I actually, because acting was my first passion, and I basically saw this casting for models for a music video, and I was like, well, I wouldn't count myself as a model, but it'll look good on my show reel. So I went, did the video, it was really cool, and they asked me to come back to model their t-shirt range, and I was like, wait, did you send your email to the wrong person? Because I'm not a model, I don't understand why you're asking me. Like, it was really, I couldn't really get my head around it. And then I looked, I went to the shoot, and I actually really enjoyed it. And it was like, I felt like my walls kind of came down, and I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. Like, and then from there, I was on, like, another acting casting profile, and someone said, oh, could I take some photos of you? And I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing.
So this whole industry.
Yeah, exactly. That is just, but this is the thing, this is why, you know, I tell my story because it kind of shows how, you know, representation is so important, because I never saw anyone who looked like me or had a body type like me. Like, I've got small boobs, I've got big hips, bit of a belly, thighs, everything. And that was just not something that was visible when I was younger. So the more I started working and the more I started learning about body positivity, I was like, right, I've really got a thing here, because... and then when I worked with Neon Moon a couple of years later, after that first gig, when I posted my pictures online, I mean, I did get some really negative comments, but with every negative comment, there was a positive comment of someone being like, "Oh my god, I've never seen someone who looks like me before," and that's why it's so important to see ourselves represented, to see that we are, you know, not that we should strive to be, you know, validated by the media, but there's something to be said about seeing someone who looks like you and being like, "Wow, that's me," you know.
Honestly, it shouldn't even. It's like what you were saying about your lecturer. It shouldn't even be a conversation. It should just be
The norm, absolutely.
the absolute norm.
But we're still breaking down so many walls even now, and I think even with the fashion industry, even though right now body positivity is a bit of a trend, which is a double-edged sword in itself.
Hate trends, like that's so
this is my
irritating,
problem.
isn't it?
I completely agree.
You can't it's got no weight. It takes the weight away from the issue because you know that a lot of the focus is just to kind of be within that group.
Exactly.
I don't know, I think it's opening up the conversation in a way that has never happened before. And even though it might be a trend for now, it just opens the space, it opens the landscape for new conversations.
I completely agree that it's like good that it's getting airtime, but it's just I think that thing of it being viewed as a trend makes it kind of gives a threat that it's going to be taken away.
That's what I don't like about it. It will be taken away, and then something else will happen, and everyone will forget about it.
And also the problem with body positivity being used as a trend as well is that like it's kind of been seized from its original very kind of quite radical like grounds. Basically, you know, it was started by fat women of colour and it came from fat activism. And now, you know, if you look at mainstream body positivity, it's usually very slim white women with perfect hourglass figures being like, "Oh, I've hunched over and I have a little roll. You can love yourself as well." And you're like, how? What universe is that relatable? I'm sorry, I
see so many of those pictures
I know. And and then they'll be like, "Oh, and also if you buy my slim tummy tea, you get 25% off with my code," and it's like, this is everything that body positivity has actually tried to avoid, but it's been co-opted by big companies and brands because they know it's trendy. So it's lost a lot of its foundations when really, you know, as you said, it's opening up new conversations completely. But I think the mainstream way that it's being portrayed is like minimising and silencing the voices that actually need it the most, which I think can be quite problematic. But no, I mean, I love the movement, but it certainly has its problems, you know.
Well, yeah, we were discussing this morning that we'd seen your stories the other night, talking about privilege.
Yeah.
And we just thought it would be really good if we could hear your take on that as well. So did you see that?
No, I didn't. Sorry, Kitty.
Oh, so if it's the thing, I think
where you're championing lots of other.
So basically, there's this sorry, I just put that over there. This trans man I follow called Kiva Bay. He's incredible, and he talks a lot about fat activism online. And he basically did this incredible thread which broke down, you know, exactly what fat phobia is and how it comes to play in his own life and how it comes to play in a lot of fat people's lives. And it really, really got me thinking, because there was one thing that he said in particular, I can't remember what it was, but something like, you know, being fat is seeing a movement that was made for you being co-opted by capitalism or something like that. And it was like, you know, we're failing then. If these are the people, like, body positivity at its roots, as I said, is very radical, and it's meant to be inclusive of all bodies, not just the incredibly palatable bodies that you can sell in an advert, you know. And I think the problem is as well is that with body positivity gaining such a big platform now, people feel like kind of anyone can have it. But the thing is that body positivity isn't feeling positive about your body. It's about deconstructing the ideals that we have learned about our own bodies and about deconstructing the ideas that we've learned about other bodies as well. And thinking about how we can do better as well. It's not just, here's my 50% code off for your next skinny coffee. And, you know...
It's funny, that word fat, because every time you say it, I feel like, oh, that's a really ugly, horrible word. We should call it something else.
Yeah.
And, like, does any person want to be called fat?
Absolutely. Because this is another thing as well. I talk about this I wrote an article about this for a platform called LAP a few months ago. And the thing about fat activism is that it was about rejoicing in the word fat. And it's actually, as a society, we've weaponized the word. We've made sure that it's the worst possible thing you can say to
It's
someone.
like
it
an
seems
insult.
really dirty.
Absolutely,
Ooh,
exactly. We've
you're
made it a
fat.
dirty word.
It's-
We've
it's-
made it something nasty.
Why?
does it
Why
mean?
is that? Why is that bad? Yeah,
Exactly.
great. Yeah, I am. Awesome.
Yeah, well,
Look
this
at
is it,
me.
and that's how it should be. But unfortunately, you know, the way our system is set up against fat people anyway, and the way that fat people are constructed in the media, they're always the butt of the joke. They can never get the man, or if they can get the man, that's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
You know, fat people have really difficult accesses to healthcare. They have, you know, they're less likely to get hired. They're more likely to get fired. It's like if you, yeah, absolutely. There's so much research that's been done to show the levels of fat discrimination that happens, and that's where fat activism came from in order to, you know, give light to these kinds of things. But from that came body positivity, and because body positivity has now become so palatable, that whole message has been lost, which has been a real shame. Yeah, so that's why, of course, I will try and talk as much as I can about my own journey, because of course I've had difficulty accepting myself. However, you know, with that, I need to make sure I always give light to other people's stories as well. You know.
Can I ask you,
Of
like,
course.
I'm going to just put this out there. I always thought that someone who was fat wasn't healthy. Could you maybe just talk about that?
So, this is really, I was actually having this conversation yesterday on Instagram, because it's such a difficult thing, because that has become such a norm as an idea. But the thing is that I think we need to kind of, we need to think twice about this, purely because there has again been a lot of research that, you know, your fatness doesn't necessarily indicate your health. So for example, you know, fat people are actually less at risk of getting osteoporosis. They actually live longer. You know, and, you know, slimmer people on other chances can be more at risk of osteoporosis. It's just, as just a few examples. But because, you know, we look at these two bodies separately, we will assume the slimmer one is healthier.
It's a vision of health.
No, well, exactly. But, you know, a lot of these women, like, again, not to generalise, but a lot of slim women will get away with eating chips every day, smoking cigarettes and taking ketamine
Your
on the weekend.
insides are rotting.
Yes, exactly, but they look the
Absolutely.
vision of health,
Yeah.
because we've decided that slim equals healthy.
Yeah.
It's not a dichotomy like what we've you know come to understand. And you know, and especially with, I don't know if you saw the cancer research campaign recently, where it basically said,
It was like something obesity.
yeah, obesity is the second biggest cause of cancer or something, and that was it.
Yeah.
Context.
There we go, exactly. Where's your context? B, the actual study that made that was funded by Weight Watchers, and Weight Watchers sponsor NHS campaigns to help people lose weight.
Vested interest there.
Yeah, hello.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, but I kind of want to clarify, because I know that it's part of my own ingrained belief system.
Of course.
I thought that someone who was fat was someone that like overeats. Is that true?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, the case is so different for every person, but like, I could give an example of my dad has always been a very big guy, and he a couple of years ago went to get his hip done. He had to get his hip replaced. And because he's a very big guy, people have always made big assumptions about, you know, his body, his health levels, that sort of thing. And he went to the doctor kind of, you know, bracing himself for the doctor being like, you need to lose weight before you have this surgery. And they were like, your blood pressure's fine, this is fine, you're all fine.
Great.
I mean, yeah, basically, yeah.
Really healthy.
Absolutely. So I think to assume that...
Sorry, I think I need to just throw in someone who maybe overeats or doesn't do any exercise. Those
Sure.
are the two assumptions that I had.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think also we need to understand that sometimes like weight also comes from chronic illnesses and like vice versa. Yeah, so it can be on some levels kind of an ableist assumption to assume that all fat people are unhealthy because you know some people, for example, with fibromyalgia cannot exercise because it will cause them so much pain in their joints.
Thyroid problems.
Thyroid problems. There is so much exactly, and also.
Just because a thin person is thin doesn't mean they're fit.
That they're fit, exactly.
I know, I just wanted to throw out, like, I realised as we're speaking that those are the things that I...
No, but that's become a
learned.
societal norm, absolutely. And also on some level, like, I think we need to stop putting so much pressure on fat people as well to kind of, you know, just because we may be, like, slimmer, we don't always exercise every day and eat right every day.
No.
So why are we expecting fat people to do it all the
Also,
time
like,
as well, you know?
They any group is not answerable to another group.
Absolutely,
actually,
exactly.
It's none of anyone's business.
None of anyone's business how they have their body. You know what? If a fat person does decide to eat chips and chill out a lot of the time, that's up to them as well. It doesn't.
Because self-care.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, you know, it's just
all these different ideas
yeah,
at once, isn't it?
exactly. And what was I going to say? Yeah. I mean, I guess another thing to say is that, you know, no matter how you conduct your body, no matter what you do with your body, it doesn't change how much respect you deserve.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, like, you see the amount of vitriol fat people get on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, everything, and you just think, like, no one deserves that kind of hate purely because they don't fit into what your standard of health and beauty looks like. So we really need to, as I said before, you know, deconstruct the ideas of what a healthy body is and what an unhealthy body is, what a good body is, what a bad body is. You know, and that takes years to unlearn.
It's like taking the value system away. Completely.
Absolutely.
Just
absolutely.
eradicating it.
For
and
sure.
Getting on with doing things.
Yeah,
For life.
exactly.
I don't think this issue is so prevalent for men. Like, I just think there's so much focus on a woman's body.
Yeah.
In order
well,
for
we're
her to
always
be
up for public
successful in
consumption.
her
Well, we're
life.
sexualised much more as well.
Yeah,
So
and
we're
like
kind of
if
then
we-
getting into that realm. And
I honestly don't think 4 men would sit on the sofa and talk about this.
although
at all.
I have to say, I was on Instagram last night, and one of the guys I was following had posted. He's a tailor, and he posted like a collage of like 8 different pairs of trousers that he was wearing, and he then posted in his stories about the body shaming he was getting for not having more muscular legs. Like having
Wow.
muscular
Sorry,
legs.
what?
Yeah, so I thought
So
actually that was so
It is
interesting
actually
to.
becoming more of an issue
Yeah.
for men.
And
It
I think
really
on
is.
some level, we, like, our body image issues are dismissed as women's issues,
Yeah.
which, if anything, kind of like dismisses the idea completely.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, body image issues can really inform how you feel about yourself for years. They inform your confidence, they inform your esteem, like how you interact with other people, like so much. And I think, I don't know if you guys ever watched the Reggie Yates documentary he did recently, where it was about male bodybuilders, essentially.
Yeah.
And he was following this guy around, and he went to the gym nearly every day. I think he'd also started taking steroids.
The whole steroid gym bodybuilding thing is
I think it could be
hear
so
it a lot.
dangerous. And this is the thing, you know, he was talking to him, be like, oh mate, you're looking really great today. And he'd be like, no, I don't, I look disgusting, I need to do better. And you know, if you'd seen that written down, you'd think you'd be hearing the voice of an anorexic
absolutely.
person. But this stuff is, even though it's not as big an issue for men, it still is there.
Yeah,
And I think if we silence their voices in this conversation, I think it does them a bit of a disservice. Because,
absolutely.
you know, men are under no... what's the word? They shouldn't be under pressure to be super ripped and have abs, and you know they don't need to be this kind of epitome of Hollywood beauty either. But it is true,
Yeah,
like the
well,
conversations
that's
are there for them.
a lot of the time anyway. So you're searching for something all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like people have 9 to 5 jobs to do. They don't have time to
yeah.
go to the
That's what I
gym
mean,
as
like,
well.
people have things to do. We could be
families
like
to
changing the
raise.
world.
Yeah, right. But we're just thinking about ourselves. Well, this
Yeah.
is I don't know if you've ever read a book called The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf.
It's on my list.
Oh, it's great.
We
it's
were actually
really
going to ask you
good.
about books as well.
Oh, great! Oh, well, I'll wait till later then. But that is a great book because it talks a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
worth
no, I've
reading.
heard people discuss that before.
Okay, so
it was the Instagram stories, wasn't it?
yeah.
Talking about. Oh, I quite like it.
But yeah, I guess there's no. I think it's really good that people are coming out more and talking about privilege a lot more, because I think we were getting into a space where, you know, people were talking over others and thinking their opinion mattered more than others. I mean, all of us, I'm sure, have been mansplained to at one point in their lives.
Although I did
I
it
did not
to
like
my
this.
husband last night.
Oh, nice! Woman-splaining! Fantastic!
Did you?
Mansplaining.
So I don't know if you've ever had it where a man has explained something that's actually very obvious to you because they just presume that you're not going to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I've had it when you go and do something and then they go, oh, I'll just go and do that again just to make sure that I know it's not going to work. And you're like, well, I've just done it. I know it doesn't work. And then they go and do it and go, it doesn't work, actually. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
You're like, could have told you that 10 minutes
if
ago.
you'd listened
Thank
and not
you.
assumed my woman
Yeah.
explaining is not
Just-
good to you.
it's-
But
That happens quite a lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine that, but like, you know, we as white women can sometimes do that to women of
Yeah.
colour and black women. As able-bodied women, we can do that to disabled
Yeah.
women. You know, it's. I think it's really good that we're now kind of getting to a place where we're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about that, or maybe I should let someone else talk about it and, you know, raise their platform
Yes,
more.
absolutely.
So as much as I really hope it's not going to become some kind of like trend thing, because I think it's really good that we do keep deconstructing our own privileges.
I'd say I think it's kind of already become a bit of a buzzword
Yeah.
anyway, but it's kind of what power gets put behind that.
Absolutely.
And it's like the ownership of it as
Yeah.
well, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, privilege is full of power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. And I think we were wondering if there was something, I mean, we spoke about you following that guy and seeing what he was talking about and that making you think about it a bit more, but whether there was anything else that specifically made you kind of sit back and really like check your privilege, and what you'd encourage others to do if they hadn't really had much experience of that, or
I think for the most part, I'm trying to think, I haven't had kind of an incident where I've gone, oh god, I shouldn't have said anything or anything like that, because I've always tried to play on the safe side. I always try, I think and I go, is my comment on this really valuable? However, you know, there is an element of also using your privilege as well. So for example, if like a lot of the times if I'm not available for a job, if there's any woman of colour or black woman who I know could do it, I'll be like, okay, why don't you ask her and her and her?
So what do you think about this is not what you're describing, but I guess it leads on to it, like positive discrimination then?
So I think
I always kind of think that that's a very tricky.
Yeah, this whole like affirmative action thing, and like I think it's a difficult phrase because it assumes that people are only being hired because of like tokenism. But these people actually are very talented and are of value, and I think it's something that a lot of very delicate white people will say, oh well, that's just because of affirmative action, rather than thinking, oh maybe they're the better candidate. Maybe they're just really damn good at their job. Yeah, exactly. So I think as long as it's not done in a kind of in a tokenistic way and more in a I know this person could kill it way, then it's much better, because then it's not condescending. It's I want to lift you up, because that's all I want to do is lift other people up. You know,
because it's quite. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking for you, which is not very good. But we've had many conversations in recent months about how we are representing our brands,
for sure,
and what kind of models we're using, and making sure that because it's difficult, because with representation, obviously we have, well in my case, I have items of clothing and I need them to be on bodies to show people so that they know if it's going to
fit,
look good, and if they want to buy them. Of course. And obviously you are making decisions about the faces and bodies you are basically using to represent those things, and so you do kind of fall into that thing of like, well, if I'm choosing people and I want to be inclusive, you are positively kind of, you're intentionally going into that process with that mindset.
And it has to start there. I mean, how else is it going to start? Because I know you and I have had a conversation before where I've been like, I need to represent a wider selection of bodies across sizes. And when I like do shout outs to the community, nobody steps forward.
It's really interesting.
I think Brighton as well, because it's such a bubble anyway.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Such a white bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of makes that whole it's not like you have a whole load of people coming forward to choose from, and then you're choosing the best person, and then
I mean, if you guys were in London, you'd be sport for choice.
Exactly.
But like being in
Bristol,
Brighton is so different.
It should be a plethora of amazing people doing extraordinary things with a variety of bodies. But maybe it's a confidence thing. There probably are.
I think there's that as well.
I mean, for me, it's like a different thing because you're in your undies.
Of course. You
really do have to be very happy with how you are.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, like when I was approached that first modeling, even though that was for t-shirts, I was like, that could never be me. And I think a lot of other people are also in that space, being like, even if they're not a working model, if they're just a regular person who think, oh, that might be quite fun, they might be like, oh no, but I couldn't possibly, because that's not me.
That was your response initially.
Well, but that's what I've been taught. But that's what I was taught about my body, and that's what so many other people are taught about their bodies too.
How did you feel when you saw the final photographs?
From that shoot, it was so cool. Like, I think they're still up on their website somewhere, even though I was like, I was like 20, 21, and I looked like such a baby, and you could kind of tell that I was really like, you know, I've come a long way since then, let's put it that way. But it was really, really cool, because I was like, oh, that could be me, and that is me. And, you know, just you know, I was really lucky in that shoot to kind of, all those kind of voices being like, you're not good enough, your body's disgusting, you're this, that, and the other. They were just quiet when the camera went on me, and I was like, this is good for me to keep doing that.
Obviously where you should be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's made me more confident with each shoot, which is really, you know, I'm so lucky to be in that kind of position where I was given the opportunity and was able to run that.
And also, Kitty, you're a gorgeous woman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Natural model.
Yeah, it's been
Thank
really
you.
interesting because we've just come out of May where we've done so many shoots.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
It's been really good because we've been using like a mixture of professional models and real women, and actually
Awesome,
it's so great to. I mean, it's great to work with everyone, but it's really great to work with women who've never done it before.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
they're just doing it to.
You can really see
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like by the end of the shoot, they're just like strutting around. It's like
Yeah, and it's so lovely to like bring that out of people.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. Yeah, when I've so a friend of mine runs an incredible young women's writing platform called Dear Damsels, and for their latest annual, we got it was like a couple of her friends were there, but also me. I mean, I'm also her friend, but I'm also a model. And then I brought in one of my model friends as well. And it was really nice at the beginning. They were kind of like, oh, I don't know. But then as the day went on, you literally see them be like, oh, yes, it's my turn to shoot. And you're like, yes, be confident. I love it. It's so nice. It brings something really beautiful out of people. And I really appreciate the power that it can have. It's really
And the
cool.
work is better for it.
Yeah, exactly. You can see it in the photos. You can see the joy and the confidence in people. And it's so lovely to see. It's really cool.
What's the next
Yeah, well,
question?
we kind of briefly touched on it at the beginning. We were discussing this morning that thing about do you identify as a feminist, but also trying to think about what kind of things put people off from really like associating with that label.
Yeah.
And I think we did speak about it a bit earlier, but
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing that puts people off feminism is that when they see when feminism's gone too far, which I hate as a phrase because, oh, women wanting equal rights to you is going too far? Okay, then.
Someone actually said that to me the other day. It was a woman. She was like, I think it's all gone too far. And
That's
I was
what
like,
internalised misogyny will do to you though, won't it? Like,
I
jeez.
was like, I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah, but this is the thing, I think, if I'm honest, I think it's a way of silencing women because usually when it comes to feminism going too far, it's when women are free bleeding or, you know, like, you know, really, and basically not being palatable and not being well behaved.
being difficult.
Exactly. And that is when it's feminism gone too far all of a sudden. So I think it's absolutely a silencing tool, but people still buy into it though because I'll be like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable with seeing menstrual blood. I hate feminism. I don't like it. But learning these things is meant to make you feel uncomfortable. Like you've got to keep learning. Like again, like learning all your privileges.
A child being horrified by anything its body produces.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But like that's all part of the process. And like, of course, you're like, if I look at me, like a good couple of years ago, I never would have called myself a feminist because I was like, oh well, these women are always complaining, blah blah. Blah. And it's like, no, they're actually just talking about the rights they deserve. So. You know, it is, obviously it's always going to be a learning process, but I do think it's really striking that whenever it's gone too far, it's usually when we're not doing stuff that everyone wants us to do. I'd also say, I mean, going back to what we said before, like, you know, mainstream feminism isn't super inclusive, so it's not like, why would you choose to label yourself as something that doesn't include you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is like a real thing right now, which is why, you know, we need to make more of an effort to be more inclusive wherever possible.
Like from the other side of that as well, there's this whole, and I don't know if this is just a very British thing, but there's that politeness angle as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There is a bit of a, and I'm not saying let's all feel sorry for slim white women, but I think there's a reluctance sometimes to get involved in the conversation because maybe you're super aware of your privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inhibiting you from feeling like you can have a voice in some of those topics. And I'm not saying get the violins out, but
no, sure.
But I think it's the whole. Well, in my view, the kind of end prize that we're all going for is an equal playing field.
Absolutely.
So you kind of, I sometimes think maybe people are checking out of the conversation because of those things, and actually, like that's not a reason to check out. It's a reason, as you say, to educate
keep
yourself
going, keep educating,
and talk to more people.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those people around you, like we were saying, Brighton can be a bit like that. Then there's the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
There's kind of no end to how you can connect with people.
This is it. Like, you know, I think it's so important to make sure that you follow a very diverse group of people. So, you know, it's not about like silencing yourself in favour of others. It's about saying your piece, but also realising when the piece is not for you. And yeah, like, so for example, like on Instagram and Twitter, I always make sure I follow like not just people who look like me, because it shows only one side of the story.
And algorithms do.
Oh my god, the algorithm! Don't get me started. So frustrating. But you know, the people who suffer the most with the algorithm are those who aren't as palatable and sellable.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
yeah, which is I mean, that's what I've seen a lot of the time at the moment, where, you know, I'm not seeing the people who I'd really like to see, because Instagram has decided the person who sells me skinny coffee is more likely to get my likes, which is obviously they're not getting it right, for one thing, if that's what they think I'm interested in. You know, it just it's it's a tough one, that, isn't it?
But then with that, that's where we can use our privilege as well to help.
Like you were
Exactly.
saying, providing your own platform and allowing those voices to shine through.
Yeah, absolutely. And like going out of your way to kind of like, especially on Instagram, like just like and comment on their things, because the more engagement they get, the more they'll be seen.
Yeah,
So
I sometimes wonder how, because obviously we are all industry users of those platforms, but
sure.
it's quite interesting when I talk to my friends who don't have anything to do with kind of marketing, and I'm like, if you like this, it will actually, I know it's like one tap for you, but that will make a really big difference to me.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of, you don't want to be like buying people's likes and stuff like that.
And you don't want to be like, please engage
if you
with
do
my
actually
content.
like it, can you just tap it?
Yeah, it takes
that
2
will
seconds.
make a big difference to all the things that we're trying to get out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult, isn't it, that like, you know, our worth as either companies or people ends up being, you know, just brought down to how many likes you can get. I think it's such a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Kitty, can you talk a little bit about how, like, between all of us, we all have like nice Instagram platforms with communities that follow us. Literally, how could we give over our platforms for the voices of women who might need them?
That's a really good question. I'd say, so maybe, for example, do like Instagram story takeovers, like maybe, or if you see,
invite people to take over.
Yeah, you could do that. Or if you see someone who, I mean, I guess it's difficult because obviously you want to like use your clothes and your brand as much as possible. But if you see someone doing something really cool, maybe post about it on your Instagram story and tell people to follow them. Or you know, if someone's made a really good post about their body, repost it. And you know, like, I think it's just about getting their names out there and their words out there. So even if it's not necessarily on your feed, you can, you know, they can go to your story and be like, here are some really cool people to follow.
That's a
like,
great idea. Is that what you did recently?
Yeah, I did that recently because, like, again,
such a great idea.
Yeah, because I thought, again, like with, you know, after having reading like Keevan's thread, I thought it was really important to make sure that they're, because the thing is, again, with mainstream body positivity, people are more likely to follow people like me than, say, you know, a fat black woman or a disabled person of colour or someone. So I wanted to make sure that if they are on my page, there are other people, you know, there's a list of people they can follow as well to keep diversifying their feeds. Yeah, I mean, hopefully it works out, and I hope that I can, you know, divert some traffic to other people as well. Because, you know, I'm only like 1/64th of the conversation. There are so many other people out there as well. And I mean, as long as, I guess, you know, it's different, me as an individual to you guys as brands, but as long as you guys, you know, keep an open mind, keep looking, keep diversifying the people you follow as well, then these stories will follow and you can just help them out that way, I think.
Brilliant.
Do you feel like, it's going to sound a bit Spider-Man-ish, but do you feel a great sense of responsibility?
With great power.
There is that, I think it's, like you said, it's a very different thing. It's like, for me, it's something obviously I'm like totally passionate about, and I love my business, but it's my business, and I've got a personal account which I don't particularly want anyone to follow, because it's just like my day to day. It's not particularly interesting, but it's a very different thing having that platform for yourself as a person. So do you feel pressure from that, or how do you kind of
you are your brand in a way.
live in that
absolutely.
every day? What's that experience?
I think at the beginning it was quite difficult because I would take everything so personally. Especially with like haute couture and that kind of thing. It's about like fashion as an art piece, like it being worn on a human rather than it being a wearable thing, if that makes sense.
They're just the hanger.
Yeah, whereas, you know, we've kind of gone beyond that now, where like we consume fashion, and we don't need like coat hanger type frames in order to show that off, I guess. Like, sorry, not meaning to be like harsh on like slimmer bodies or anything, but like, but now like I think there's been a serious shift into knowing that like, you know, fashion, we wear fashion. It's not just like this abstract arty concept anymore that it used to be in the catwalks. It's now something that we do.
And we love.
And that we love, exactly. So why not have us represent, like I think Chromat is a great brand that's really inclusive of lots of different body types.
Cool.
Yeah, and they've like shown at New York Fashion Week and stuff, and it's just been really cool, like seeing a woman with cellulite walking down the catwalk and being like, damn, yes, you look sick. Why do we not see more of this? You know, like
I saw this really cool thing, I can't remember, it must have been on Instagram. And it was like a fashion show fundraiser for, I think, homelessness in America, but all the models were homeless women.
Oh wow.
And of like completely like different like shapes, sizes, ages, and it was like just awesome.
Yeah, well, I was really lucky a few years ago to go to the Clock Tower Sanctuary in Brighton, which is like a young people's place for. Oh, of course, yeah, you were at the Clock Tower, weren't you? And I did Women's Hour with them. And
oh my God, I bet they loved you.
Yeah, it was really sweet. We had like, because a part of me was like, is this even something they're even bothered about? You know, like, am I just being that privileged person being like, oh, your body's fine, to people who have much bigger things to worry about, you know? But, you know, speaking to them, like, frankly about bodies, and I showed her the pictures, one of the ladies there, some pictures from the Neon Moon shoot, and there's, one of the models is, like, a bigger black woman with, like, saggy boobs, and she was like, oh, her boobs look like mine, and I was like, yes, like your boobs don't need to be up to here in a push-up bra all the time to be beautiful. That's not what natural boobs look like all the time. But you know, she'd never seen anything that was like that, and it was just really like heartwarming to see. Like she felt so validated, and she had a bit more of a spring in her step after that. And it was like, it's just those little. It's about having that conversation with people. That, you know, because I think something like beauty standards, diet culture, all these kind of things that we don't think to question a lot of the time. So sometimes it is just about sitting down with someone being like, hey, look at this thing, isn't this really cool? And then it comes from there. Yeah. So why did I get onto that? There was a reason. Homelessness, yes, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was like a nice.
No, it was really cool. I mean, I hope.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So cool.
What were we talking about?
Oh, the trolling and stuff?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
asked about the trolling incident. How did you deal with that? Because I think I would be very upset if I had seen things about my body.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm at a place where I'm strong enough yet to deal with that.
For sure. Well, it was a really bizarre experience because when I did it, I actually didn't think anything of it. I just got these amazing photos back from my Neon Moon shoot. Yeah. They hadn't airbrushed it at all. There was no photoshopping. Thank you very much. I was so happy with them, and I just posted the 2 pictures on Twitter, and I said, I'm so happy to be a Neon Moon girl, and I used the hashtag, there's no wrong way to be a woman. And then I kind of left my phone, I went to a photo shoot, and then I got back and it was like, I was scrolling through my phone and was like, oh no, it's happened, I didn't think this was going to happen. And it was, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the first comment, when I first saw it, like, made my heart drop. I was just like, because I forgot that it was such a... Sorry?
Would you mind sharing?
Oh, it was something really stupid, like, you need to squat daily. And it was like, right?
Okay, ow.
Yeah, literally, also, like, go away. Also, you don't know what I do with my body. And, like...
Yeah, don't assume that I don't squat every day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was my thing. But it was just...
Oh, God, that's so...
It was the fact that these people... Comment. Right? Like, he just felt the need to divulge that comment onto... Oh, yeah, he. Yeah. And then there was the one that got me the most, actually, that I don't think I'll ever forget, was because I used this hashtag started by a plus size model called Denise Bidot, and the hashtag was "There's no wrong way to be a woman," and she quote tweeted my tweet and said, "There's also no wrong way to eat right, exercise, and love yourself," and then went on a whole tirade about how people like me shouldn't be promoting an unhealthy body image. They shouldn't be promoting unhealthy body types. I need to do this, this, and this with my body, and I was just looking through it and was like, God, you don't know anything about me, and you've just decided that I just.
That's quite shocking.
It was
even
really.
though she was talking about body positivity.
Sorry.
Even though she started that hashtag.
Oh no! Sorry, the model didn't reply. This was a random person who got back to me. Yeah. Oh no! Sorry. So I used her hashtag, but as in this person quoted the hashtag back at me as a reason to get back at me. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well.
It's still shocking.
It sucked. Yeah, it was, and also coming from another woman as well. But that just goes to show how internalized misogyny and fat phobia as well, how internalized it is, because I would never dream of saying that.
We're so quick. Well, some of us are quick to beat the other women down. And that's just not
I think that's another. Going back to your original question about why people are put off by feminism, I think that is a part of it as well.
Intimidating.
And it was just.
God, that's awful.
Yeah, it was
I'm
really.
Sorry that.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Luckily. That's why, I count my lucky stars that I was at a place where I could be like, you guys have nothing better to do than sit behind your phone and tell me how disgusting I am while I'm on a photo shoot achieving my dreams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think, let's see who's really winning here. And also...
sorry for them, actually. I feel deeply
really saddened by them.
Really sad by people.
Yeah.
If they say that to other people, what are they actually saying to themselves?
No, it's a projection, isn't it?
Such a projection.
Absolutely.
It's really sad.
And it was made all the better, to be honest, because for every bad comment that was about me, there were about 3 other people being like, I love this, I can't believe I'm seeing someone who looks like me on Twitter, I love this brand, I love what they're doing, and I just thought, and also I was really lucky that lots of people came to my defence as well. So a lot of people were like, how dare you say this about her, you don't know anything about her life, and I was like, oh, thanks you guys, I didn't even need to tackle anyone myself, which was really lucky. So yeah, it was a hard experience, but I think purely because I'd spent so much years before then unlearning so much about what I thought about my body, and also learning to love my body for what it was as well, that I didn't feel the need to kind of hide and cry or anything. I was like, well, after a lot of you, I'm killing it, and you guys are really sad and alone. I have nothing better to do. So, but that can't be said for everyone. There are so many people who end up going viral, out of, without their consent, and will get attacked online. And
I have to say,
it's a horrible
it does
culture.
Completely put me off bothering with Twitter at all, because I feel like that's the one. Obviously, it happens across all social media, but that seems to be the one where it's so aggressive.
Absolutely, and there's so little at least on Facebook, there's some kind of guidelines that you can report people for. But I've seen time and time again, someone will get into an argument with a neo-Nazi, and somehow they're the ones who get banned off of Twitter, not the neo-Nazi being violently racist to them. And I know exactly, and I'm seeing, it's really, really awful, and I think that's why Twitter doesn't quite have the same kind of.
I guess they're operating a freedom of speech for all, aren't they?
Yeah, but freedom of speech doesn't mean you can be a dick to someone without consequences. It just means you can say what you want, but it doesn't mean that people won't.
There should be
respond. Yeah, there should be repercussions, absolutely. That's why I think it's good that, in recent times, I think people are actually being taken to court for the things they have said online. So,
really?
So there was someone was trolling. Oh God, I've forgotten her name, but the lady who was in charge of she was the Brexit lawyer.
Right.
I can picture her face, but I can't remember her name. And he sent her disgusting, violent, racist things, actively violent things to her. And I think he actually, really disgusting threats. And he actually faced some consequences. Wow, so I think it's definitely, I think there's definitely going to be a turning point soon. But until then,
there has to be, because it's I think we've kind of passed the period of time where society can say this is a new technology and we don't know how to legislate it.
No.
It's no, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's been at least 10 years now. Exactly.
Exactly. It's taking responsibility, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think the problem is that so many people think their comments exist in a vacuum and that's it.
Yeah.
And they don't reach another person.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of someone called Dylan Marin, but he's he works for this online platform, and he did a series called Talking to People Who Hate Me, where he would find someone who left a really disgusting comment about them, and be like, oh, do you want to have a chat? And the amount of times that people be like, yeah, sure. And like, what really usually came from it was them being like, I didn't think you'd actually see it. I didn't think you'd actually read it.
Really?
I didn't think you'd care. Like, or just, I'm really angry about my life, so I took it out on you.
Yeah,
like, they were all. It was just so interesting listening to the conversation.
Program.
Right? Yeah. You know, it was really interesting that he took that step to be like, okay, so, you know, what do you have to say for yourself, essentially?
Let's hear it all.
Yeah, because a lot of the people, you know, who do comment these things don't think there are going to be any consequences. So it's good to actually hear from their side why they feel the need to say these sorts of things. You know, some people will just, you know, palm it off as that's just my opinion. But that's just my opinion doesn't give you like permission to be hateful or, you know, nasty to people.
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a turning point soon, but it's just a matter of when.
And especially when you consider that, again, going back to privilege, like, we have freedom of speech here. Not everyone has that opportunity, and people are basically misusing it.
It's exactly.
Depressing.
It is really depressing.
Where we're at now.
You know, like there was another thing in China recently. So with the Me Too movement, obviously China has a lot more kind of censorship. Thank you. And so they used 2 emojis. It was a rabbit with a rice bowl, and I think it's Mandarin. Both the emojis, like, so the rabbit, it sounds like me, and then the bowl is 2. So it was their way of doing going with the movement, but without using the hashtag and therefore being censored. So it is really right. Isn't the most literally how incredible and how smart these women are to get around that. But it goes to show, yes, absolutely, using your voice is such a privilege that I think a lot of us don't think twice about a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but how
That's
brave of
really
them as well, because there are some serious consequences.
There are some serious consequences for things like that.
Yeah, exactly, which is amazing. Awesome.
So I feel like we've been getting a bit heavy with the old conversation.
Yeah.
Should we talk about some books?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so books.
Yeah, books, blogs, magazines, but I know we were talking off camera about Instagram, people to follow on Instagram, but I think as we've been discussing education so much, it'd be really good to have a few reading lists.
So I'd say the first one I'm going to start with is actually a Tumblr page, but it's called bigfatscience.tumblr.com. And basically the person who runs it is a fat scientist, and they basically, the whole account is about basically debunking all the things we know about fatness and health, which is fantastic. No, it's great. No, but honestly, if you want to learn, that's a great place to start, because this person, people will ask them questions like, oh, you know, my family's really pressuring me to get weight loss surgery, what do I do? And, you know, she'll come back with, or actually I don't know their gender to be fair, but they'll come back being like, actually people who've had weight loss surgery are more likely to put on weight and actually more likely to die. And, you know, like there's all these different kinds of facts that we don't think about. And also because I think the scope of medical research at the moment is incredibly fat-phobic, so we don't see all the other bits of research that actually goes against our current kind of fat-phobic idea of what health is. So that's a really good place to start. And they only use scientific journals, they only use research. So it's not like, I found this thing on, you know, gov.biz.net that kind of informs my opinion. You know, they're actually using like scientific evidence, which I think is really valuable.
Great.
That's really
So you said about the beauty myth.
Oh yes, The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. That is amazing. It's like, I feel like with every page I read of it, I'm going, what? Like, it's just one of those books that breaks it down so brilliantly and talks about, you know, how kind of the whole idea of beauty kind of came from kind of post-war. We were all like, we were working, we knew what we were doing, we were killing it. And it was almost like it was kind of used as another way to put us down. So, and also it's interesting that she, you know, she posits the idea that it's difficult to kind of abstain from the culture of beauty because you are so punished for it. And yet you're also punished for being too into it as well. Yeah. So if you're too prim and proper and too like well put together a woman, it's like, oh well, she's stupid, she doesn't know anything.
Isn't it amazing? We all just long to connect and be included in our community, and we'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly. And yet it comes down to, you know, how pretty we are or how much we fit into certain standards, and you know, and it's really interesting how she talks about also like the aging industry and diet culture and like the diet industry. And how both of them, again, set us up to fail. You know, because ultimately we're never going to get rid of wrinkles forever.
Nope.
And, you know, we punish women for aging in every which way. But if they, you know, if they have the Botox, they go, oh, well, now she looks like a creep, or, oh, now she's aging. You know, like, you know, there's no way that... Exactly, there's no way that you can win in the current beauty culture that we have. And, like, that book is a great starter pack to debunking a lot of stuff that we kind of take as a given. Another really good one is Fat is a Feminist Issue by Susie Orbach.
Yes, that's on my list.
Yeah, really great book. Again, kind of talking about, like, you know, how fatness kind of, how it kind of operates in our society, how we, you know, feel towards it, what it does, that kind of thing. So that's really interesting. I'd also say Eat Up by Ruby Tando is a really lovely book because she just writes so beautifully about food, and I think we beat ourselves up so much for eating or enjoying eating, and it becomes such a and it becomes such a battleground all the time, you know. And because also Ruby had an eating disorder, if I remember rightly, so it's really lovely to see her writing so beautifully about food and just enjoying
that relationship with it.
Yeah, like she did a beautiful thread on Twitter once, which was like all the little moments of food that you appreciate. So like the little bit of sugar at the bottom of the bag when you buy donuts at the fair, and like that first cup of tea when you come home from holiday, and like all those kinds of things where it's exactly, it's about thinking of food as something that nourishes us, and that is like, I don't know about you, but like when I cook for people, that's how I show how much I love them.
That is. I have a very tricky relationship with food, and I love cooking for people now.
Absolutely, which is so wonderful.
It's really important to see other people like enjoying.
Yeah, and just changing our ideas about food as well. Not making it, you know, not making our bodies a battleground for where food fights off, but you know, more about thinking about the wonderful connotations and the wonderful ways in which food operates in our world as well. So I think that's a really lovely book as well.
I'm going to try and read that.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really sweet. Oh gosh, what else? There's another one that's on my list. Oh, do you listen to the Guilty Feminist podcast? Yeah.
Like religiously.
I was on a panel with Deborah Francis White a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was amazing. She's really cool.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we listen to her a lot at the studio. It's
Oh,
just
really?
I literally re-listen to. I literally listen to them and then re-listen to them and then re-listen to them again.
Yeah, she's fantastic, isn't she?
So into her.
And I gotta say, it was so awesome
Major
to.
crush.
Yeah,
So into her.
she's the coolest person.
I love her.
No, I love her too. It was amazing. Like, so when I met her, it was really cool to kind of like after the event, I kind of chatted with her a bit. I know. I was like, "Oh, it's you," and I was trying the whole time to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm cool. This is the thing."
It's just a real cash day.
Just Deborah Francis White right in front of me, wanting to hang out with me. But what was great is that I remember so there's another woman on my panel called Tiana Tamburek who runs this platform called Female Narratives, which is about getting really strong, cool women together to do events and panels and that kind of thing. And we were kind of talking about stuff, and she said, "Oh, you know, this would be like a cool idea maybe for a next podcast. Do you know any women of colour who could talk about this?" And I was like, "Yes, that's how you use your privilege." Like she's saying, not just you guys, but who else do you know that I can connect with? And I've really seen that recently. She's made a real effort to be more inclusive on the podcast, which I really appreciate. Yeah. And also doing the whole like Calais Jungle stuff as well. Like she's
such an awesome episode.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. She's been killing it. I love her, but I definitely recommend that podcast for sure. Really good. And also the Made of Human podcast. Have you heard of? There's a comedian called Sophie Hagen. She's Danish.
It's absolutely 100% on my.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
It's really
it's
lovely.
absolutely like at the top of my.
Yeah, no, I would definitely
recommend
recommend it. Because she talks to some really cool
She's
people.
great. She is absolutely great. I love
Really
her.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And also, again, she's a fat comedian who's not afraid to label herself as fat and talk about fat issues as well.
Yeah.
So on her podcast, she's not afraid to talk about that with other people. And like, for example, there was one episode she had an amazing woman called Colette Okafor on there. And she's a black woman who's also runs her own pole dance studio. And she's also a personal trainer as well. And basically she went viral not that long ago because I think she was talking about either she'd asked a Manchester studio whether she could do like a class there, and it was a studio run by white women, and like Colette, she was coming from, you know, to see if she could join, and they're like, yeah, we don't actually like your style of twerk. We don't think that it's
Sorry, what?
yeah, a white woman was telling a black woman that she did like her style of talk, literally, and so obviously she lost it, and I don't blame her because
so
imagine, honestly, they have co-opted something that means so much to her and telling her that hers isn't good enough. Like, it was just a real
There's got
example.
to be like a splaining term for
Oh,
that.
white splaining?
White splaining.
Yeah.
Sorry, can we? There's a lovely cat there. He's got
Oh,
a lovely face.
he's really
just
nice.
to point out.
Oh, and he's soggy.
He'll be anything for a bit.
No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's actually,
it was ridiculous.
In fact, I'm gonna laugh at that.
Yeah, a good old fucking chuckle. Yeah, like, so she talks a lot about that because she does twerk classes as well. Was like, I just found it ridiculous that something that means so much to me and my heritage is being co-opted by women who don't know anything about it. You just think it's cool because Miley Cyrus did it on the VMAs.
Well,
yeah. So, but what was interesting about Sophie and Kelechi's conversation was that because Kelechi's a personal trainer, she was like, so what do you think about like bodies and stuff? She said, well, it's not about weight, it's about, you know, whatever health means to you as an individual, which is a really important thing to think about as well, you know, because one person's health, you know, might mean like smoothies and kale and being vegan and doing lots of runs.
this is a really... That's really... I've had a conversation with someone very recently about this, and that my version of healthy is that I eat meat and I don't cut out food at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my version of health is that I can't cut out food because I get obsessed with it.
Yeah,
so
I was
my
like that
version
too.
is that I just, whatever I fancy, I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
But your version of healthy might mean you have to do smoothies every day.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it's something you kind of grow into with age. Like, we probably all here explored different avenues and then settled into.
Yeah, and you learn about your body.
Natural.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And I think also, again, as everything does, that sort of goes back into the whole privilege thing again, though, as well, because it's like such a judgmental area, food, diet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like.
And I think a lot of us.
There's a financial thing there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I was just
you
about
can't
to
all
say.
just like buy. I mean, actually having a smoothie every day is expensive because you're buying fresh fruit constantly.
Yeah,
absolutely. One of those things.
Exactly. Like, I think unfortunately a lot of vegans can assume that it's accessible to everyone, but it just isn't. And also, like, especially for some people who have certain disabilities or chronic illnesses, like, being vegan could kill them.
Yeah,
and I don't think a lot of people think that.
Yeah, no, they don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Think
So, you know, as we said, you know, healthy looks different to every person, and I was really impressed by how Sophie and Kelechi really like tackled that conversation, and so that podcast is really good for lots of conversations like that.
Awesome.
So I definitely recommend that as well.
Totally, at the top of my list.
They're great. Actually, I think Sophie's doing some like live recordings at some point, which is really cool. Actually, she's doing one with Body Pussy Panda in a few weeks.
Oh my god, amazing.
I know, which is going to be amazing.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Have
And
you met Body Pussy Panda?
I didn't meet her, but
Hold on. So that we can just cut this bit out. Oh, my phone's broken, so I can't stop it.
Oh no!
How is it? What's it doing?
Do you want me to decline it?
Oh.
Okay.
Is it alright?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a phone
Let me
call?
just put it. No, it's a phone.
I need to record.
No.
No, I haven't met her, but a couple of weeks ago I did a like body positive flash mob in Carnaby Street, which was really cool. Yeah, it was really fun.
She kind of started that whole thing, didn't she?
She's
great. I don't think she started it, but she helped bring it to the mainstream conversation, which I think was really cool.
Are we recording?
Yeah. What is a body positivity flash mob? Because that's
What we did
If
is
it's what it is in my brain, it's so brave.
So basically, we like lots of people. So I found out about this through Curvy Kate, which is like a plus size like lingerie company, and there were also like other companies there, there are other organisations there. So there was a group called Positively Perfect there, who's like a body positive kind of collective. Also, there was another one. Which is basically, it specialises in like raising the platforms of scarred women, so maybe women who've had surgery or burns or that kind of thing. So they were there, which was just glorious to see. And basically we got to Carnaby Street and then we took our kit off
You all got naked?
I mean, not naked, but we were in like
That's
bikinis or crop tops or
Amazing.
and basically just walked through to Carnaby Street, being like, we need to change.
I'm so excited by this.
It was really cool. What was our thing? It was we don't need to change our bodies, we need to change the rules.
Yes,
Which was a
that is
great-
exactly it.
Yeah, which was, I just thought that was like, it
And
summed
on
it up. It
Carnaby
was
Street,
brilliant.
where all the big fashion houses are.
Exactly, and then we walked through to like the Golden Square, which is where like lots of city boys and everyone was having lunch, and we were just there like, yeah, have it. How'd you feel? Yeah, exactly. And like, and, we weren't just palatable bodies. There were lots of different people there, and it was cool to see also like women who maybe have like invisible illnesses and chronic illnesses there as well, who, like the disabled community don't often get included in the conversation. I think it's really key that they were there too. And basically she was there, Body Positive Panda was there for a little bit, and I waved at her and she waved at me, and that was kind of it. And I was like, she knows who I am, kind of, maybe. So yeah, that was really cool.
Bloody awesome.
Yeah,
I
it
love
was awesome.
like hearing when like women have like I don't know if like crush isn't the right word really,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like, that
So
real
many
feeling
girl
of like,
crushes.
oh, you're so amazing, and I just want to like know you and be your
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah,
It's,
oh my
like,
God.
such a great.
That's
get
how I
that
felt
with all
about Deborah
Radio
Francis
6
White.
presenters.
Yeah. No, it's like, can I just be near you? That'd be
Yeah.
great. I just want to, Can we just have a chat one day?
Yeah.
Just a
It
coffee.
feels like quite a kind of innocent, childlike
I love
Yeah.
sensation.
Admiration.
I love
Yeah.
But it's lovely to have that amongst women, like,
Yeah.
especially when, we're always, it's kind of a norm for us to kind of beat each other down and, like, try and get above each other. Like, to just appreciate each other for who we are is such a lovely thing, and I think we've got to try and do it more wherever we can,
We really do.
Because
Yeah.
anti-feminists try and tell us that, we're just man-hating and we hate everyone. It's like, that's not the case. We're positive and wonderful, and we
Love
just
them
have...
too.
Yeah,
Me
right.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah,
time.
exactly. And, like, yeah, exactly. So...
Oh,
Sounds
cool.
great.
Well,
I want to be involved in that.
yeah. See Louisa there soon.
Yeah.
I think probably we've obviously not covered everything, but we've covered
No.
quite a bit.
Okay.
But
Are you sure there's anything
whether
else?
well, I was just wondering if you had any kind of, just to round it up, like words of wisdom, I guess, or like advice for we did touch on this earlier, but people who haven't really had much experience within the kind of feminist sphere, or they're just starting their educational journey in this way, and kind of any advice for how they can
Cool, I
find
think...
their way.
Ooh, advice. It's a big...
I
big
know.
word, isn't it?
No responsibility.
No, of course not, no. I think my key thing, I mean, it sounds a little bit like Matrixy, but I always say, like, when you start this journey, it's worth questioning everything. Like, everything that you take as a given. Why do we take it as a given? Why do we think it's normal to not have confidence? Why do we think it's okay for us to feel bad about ourselves and that just be a norm? Like, why do we feel like we have to beat ourselves up for eating all the time? All of these kinds of questions, like, or, read an article and be like, is this truly objective as well? Because I think a lot of the time we'll read something online and be like, well, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Especially with the rise in fake news and stuff as well, it's very difficult to kind of distinguish between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
So I say to anyone who's kind of starting their journey, starting to learn, question everything. Aliens, no. But like, that's definitely the case. And also like, I think I've already mentioned a couple of times, but like diversifying what you read.
Actively.
Yeah, actively going out of your way to be like, right, okay, so I've heard, even if it's like a film review or something, like, okay, I've heard this stance from a white guy. What could a woman of colour say about this exact issue? And, going out of your way to make sure that, you just keep learning, basically. I think it's a wonderful journey to be on, probably because I'm a big nerd and I love to learn. I love to keep, like, learning and reading and that kind of thing. But I think it's really cool once you start to, like, open your mind and you're connecting dots and, you're learning more theory and you think, you find a whole other theory that you never would have thought of before, and, like, that's where it all starts. And, that's the first step, I think, is to just keep on learning, keep doing the damn thing.
And I think it's about integrating that sort of attitude and mindset into your everyday as
Yeah.
well, because
Which takes practice.
in a way that sounds like that could sound like, oh, I need to put aside time each day to think about these things or question these things or like read all these things, and it's like, actually no, just think about what you're already consuming
Exactly.
and then change the view
Absolutely.
of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think like there's a part of me that also says like don't put too much pressure on yourself as well, because
Yeah,
there's no there's no perfect activist, there's no perfect social justice warrior, there's no one who knows absolutely everything and is perfect all the time, and it is going to be a learning process. You are going to make mistakes, you may say something wrong, but ultimately you need to make sure that you respond to that in a really constructive way, rather than going into defense mode and being like, oh well, that's it, I'm never going to learn anything again, I never want to do anything. It's about being like, right, okay, I may have messed up, but how can I make this better? What do I need to read? What do I need to learn in order to do better for next time? But again, like, going back to pressure, like, don't feel like you have to do this all the time. You know, like, I found after Donald Trump got elected, I had to opt out of Twitter for a while because everything made me angry, everything made me upset. I had a headache for a week. And I was just like, if I'm reading all this information all the time that's only making me stressed out, it's not good for me. So I think it's also good to kind of be able to personally draw the line and be like, I need to actually turn my phone off and just meditate for a bit, or just have a drink, sit down, like get away from this, because it can become quite an insidious culture, and it can become like quite taxing on your mental health as well. Definitely. So, you know, you've got to think about yourself in amongst it too.
I've just opted out of Facebook for a bit.
Yeah. It's for the better sometimes.
A bit of quiet time on that.
See, I've manipulated my Facebook algorithm because all I do is like and love pictures and videos of dogs. So now when I go on Facebook, I don't see anything political anymore. It's just dog, 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 dog. Maybe like a random political thing, and then some more dogs. So I'm like, yes, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, it's the one time the algorithm has worked in my favour. So I definitely recommend it.
Brilliant.
Well, I think we could just go on for days.
We could go on.
And maybe we'll do this again. And that
for sure. I'd love to.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for like wanting to talk to me. It's lovely.
It's
Thank
brilliant.
you.
And we'll put links to all the different things that we were discussing on the books and everything.
Oh, for sure.
Well.
Yeah,
So
I can
make
send
sure
you
we're
some.
spreading the word.
And to your work.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, of course.
Absolutely.
Super.
And we better take some photos.
Oh yeah. Yes, do it.
And then what you do